There are moments in life when everything feels like it's hovering in this strange in-between space. It's not exactly chaos, but it's not the calm you're used to either. Something underneath the surface starts to move, to shift, and you can feel it even though you can't quite put your finger on what's actually changing. The conversations you have with people might start feeling kind of hollow, like they're missing something essential. The daily routines that used to anchor you and make you feel safe now seem pointless, almost irrelevant to who you're becoming. Even the big goals you've been chasing with so much fire and determination might suddenly feel bland, like they've lost their flavor. This whole experience can be deeply unsettling because we've been trained since childhood to believe that progress means constant motion, always pushing forward, always doing something productive. But here's what most people don't realize: this weird, quiet feeling you're experiencing right now is actually one of the most reliable signs that major transformation is getting ready to show up in your life. It's not that you're stuck in some kind of stagnation, and it definitely isn't apathy or indifference taking over. What's really happening is a complete recalibration of your entire energetic system. When we look at quantum physics, something fascinating happens before a particle makes the jump to a completely different state. It enters this phase that scientists call uncertainty, and there's a specific term they use for its superposition. In this state, the particle is literally holding multiple potential realities at the exact same time, and none of them have actually materialized yet into physical form. This isn't some kind of frozen standstill where nothing's happening. Actually, it's the most intensely dynamic condition that's even possible in the quantum realm. Right now, in this very moment, you're living in that same liminal phase, standing right at the threshold between different timelines. The old version of who you used to be is starting to dissolve, breaking down into its component parts, while the new version of you is already forming, already real and complete within the quantum field itself. But here's the challenge: your mind, which has been conditioned its whole life to expect growth that happens in clear, measurable steps, has a really hard time trusting this kind of process. Your logical brain desperately wants evidence, concrete results it can measure, linear steps it can track and verify. But the quantum realm just doesn't operate according to those familiar rules, and that disconnect can feel incredibly uncomfortable. What you're going through right now is the complete unraveling of your old energetic blueprint, the entire system that's been running your life up until this point. Think about your life like this complex, intricate weaving of patterns, deeply held beliefs, and energetic codes that have been woven together over many years. These patterns held you at one specific vibration, keeping you anchored to a particular timeline for as long as you can remember. But once your higher self decides it's time and initiates this shift, that whole structure begins to loosen up. Individual threads start to come undone. Energetic agreements you made with yourself and others years ago begin to dissolve into nothing. And because this transformation is happening on a vibrational level first, before it ever shows up in physical reality, the very first signs you notice are this profound stillness, an emptiness that feels strange, and this really noticeable drop in the drive and motivation you used to feel so strongly. This shift can make you feel like something's gone terribly wrong, like maybe you're losing your edge or your passion. But the truth is totally different. This is actually one of the strongest possible indicators that something incredibly powerful is about to align perfectly in your life. From a spiritual perspective, many ancient traditions and wisdom teachings have a name for this particular space you're in right now. They call it the void. Mystics throughout history have described it using phrases like fertile darkness or sacred silence, the place where all creation takes root before it eventually blossoms into light and becomes visible. In this void space, your soul is actively realigning itself to match the frequency of the new reality you're drawing toward you. The tools and strategies that helped you navigate your old life effectively might suddenly seem completely useless now, and that's because they genuinely belong to the version of you that's fading away into the past. Your real job right now isn't to panic or force something to happen. Your job is to trust this stillness, to actually lean into it instead of fighting against it. The silence you're experiencing isn't empty at all. It's absolutely packed full of quantum data, information that's actively reshaping your entire experience in ways your conscious, analytical mind isn't capable of understanding yet. Even mainstream science backs up this ancient wisdom in its own way. Research in the field of neuroplasticity has shown something pretty remarkable. The brain actually needs extended periods of quiet to properly rewire itself for completely new thought patterns and behaviors. As you begin stepping into a brand new energetic frequency, your entire nervous system has to adapt to match it. Your brain's predictive systems, the ones that help you anticipate what's coming next, are updating their models. Your physical body itself is learning how to stabilize at this elevated level of vibration you're reaching for. And this recalibration stage is absolutely essential to the whole process because you simply cannot bring the noise, the chaos, and the instability of your previous timeline into the grounded clarity of the one you're stepping into now. You have to let go of the old completely before you can truly receive and hold the new. Picture the stillness that fills a concert hall right before an orchestra starts their performance. The lights gradually dim, the room falls completely silent, and every single musician settles into their place with their instrument ready. That silence isn't a void or an absence of anything. It's a moment filled with powerful anticipation, with potential energy gathering. Or imagine the way an archer pulls back on their bow just before releasing an arrow. That tension in the string isn't a delay or hesitation. It's the accumulating force that creates the momentum needed for the arrow to fly. Right now, it probably feels like life is pulling you backward, like you're moving in the wrong direction, but it's not pulling you back to hold you down or keep you stuck. It's setting you up for a launch that's so powerful you could never achieve it through willpower or force alone. Here's where a lot of people completely misunderstand what's happening to them. They misread this quiet phase as a sign that something's going wrong in their life. They confuse the void with stagnation or failure. And because sitting in this uncomfortable space feels so unsettling, they rush to fill it with whatever they can find: distractions, old patterns they thought they'd moved past, low frequency behaviors and habits they know don't serve them. But here's the critical thing to understand. The more you resist being in this space, the longer you stay trapped between timelines, unable to fully shift into the new one. The people who actually make the quantum leap aren't the ones who fight against the stillness or try to escape it. They're the ones who learn to welcome it, even embrace it. They recognize this silence as concrete evidence that something major is reconfiguring itself beneath the surface of their visible reality. If you can shift your entire mindset around this experience, if you can train yourself to see this calm period not as a problem that needs fixing, but as the quantum loading screen of your next chapter buffering and preparing to launch, absolutely everything changes in your perception. You'll start to notice these subtle but incredibly powerful signs showing up around you, maybe a random conversation that suddenly unlocks a totally new perspective you'd never considered, or a sudden emotional release that catches you off guard, or this unexpected clarity around an issue that's been foggy and confusing for months. These things aren't just coincidences or random luck. They're energetic adjustments happening in real time, fine-tuning your vibration so it can align perfectly with the new timeline that's waiting for you. Drop a word in the comments that captures the energy you're stepping into today: trust, flow, joy, ease, whatever feels true for you. Your word matters because it sends a signal into the quantum field. So, if you find yourself right now in this strange in-between space where you no longer resonate with your past, but you're still unsure about what's ahead, I want you to take a deep breath and really absorb what I'm telling you. That discomfort you're feeling, that uncertainty, it's actually a confirmation that you're on the right path. You're positioned exactly where transformation stops being just a possibility and becomes absolutely inevitable. And as we continue exploring this together, you're going to learn how to not just endure this phase, but actually transform it into rocket fuel for your quantum leap. Because once you stop resisting what's happening and start recognizing this moment for what it truly is, you'll begin navigating toward your next timeline with so much more ease, so much more trust, and this magnetic sense of purpose that draws opportunities directly to you. Here's another truth that very few people really understand about how quantum shifts actually work in practice. They don't usually kick off with fireworks or some dramatic, unmistakable message from the universe like you see in movies. Most of the time, the initial jump into a new reality starts with friction, but not the loud, chaotic kind. It's more like subtle dissonance, this quiet discomfort, that keeps whispering to you that something just doesn't fit anymore. All of a sudden, relationships that used to feel nurturing and supportive now feel restrictive, like they're holding you back. Work that used to light you up and inspire you feels completely flat, devoid of meaning. Even your own internal thoughts might start to feel like they're just echoes of someone you used to be, not who you're becoming. This is what's known as the phase of frequency mismatch, and it's a critical part of the transformation process. Your soul has already begun shifting into a higher vibration, but your external world, all the physical circumstances and relationships around you, is still operating on an outdated frequency that doesn't match where you are now. In the language of quantum physics, this phenomenon is referred to as decoherence. When two systems fall out of resonance with each other, in this case, your inner being and your outer environment are no longer vibrating at compatible frequencies. The natural result is rising tension, increasing friction. And that's not some kind of accident or mistake. It's a signal, a clear and unmistakable indicator that your current reality simply can't support the energetic imprint of where you're headed next. Think about it like trying to install cutting-edge, advanced software on a computer running an ancient operating system. Things start to glitch and malfunction, not because anything's fundamentally broken, but because it's time for a major upgrade. And that upgrade you need is your quantum leap into a new reality. On a spiritual level, this is often the point where people start questioning absolutely everything in their lives. They think to themselves, why does it feel like I'm falling apart when I thought I was supposed to be evolving and growing? But the truth is, you're not breaking down at all. What's actually happening is that you're breaking away from alignment with your former timeline, the one you've been living in. That inner tension you're experiencing, that discomfort, it's not a sign of failure or regression. It's actually fuel. It's the very resistance that's going to launch you into your next evolution. Picture yourself standing with one foot on two separate boats that are slowly drifting in opposite directions. Eventually, you absolutely must choose which boat you're going to stay on. The one that's aligned with your current vibration, your true frequency, will always feel more natural to stand on, even if choosing it means leaving behind what's familiar and comfortable and known. This is precisely where most people end up getting completely stuck in their transformation journey. The mind really doesn't like uncertainty at all. It constantly seeks comfort in what it knows, even when what it knows is outdated and no longer serving your highest good. So your mind tries to repair what's falling apart around you, desperately trying to cling to old constructs and patterns, attempting to bring back what's naturally slipping away. But in the quantum realm, trying to revive the past is exactly like hitting the rewind button on your life. It's a regression, not progress. What feels like collapse, what looks like everything falling apart, is really a clearing. It's making space. Old agreements are being cancelled. Outdated connections are being severed. And stagnant energy that's been stuck in your field for years is finally being released, so something completely new can come in. But before we move forward, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like something's starting to make sense, and if a part of you is beginning to realize your own power in creating your reality, tap that like button if you just had an aha moment, because like really does attract like. And subscribe to stay with this space and grow with us. This isn't just random content, we're building a community of conscious creators here. Think about what happens in nature during the changing seasons. Before spring can arrive with all its new growth and blossoms, winter has to strip everything down to bare essentials. Trees lose their leaves completely. The ground appears dead and barren. But underneath that surface, in the soil, new roots are spreading and strengthening, preparing for the explosion of life that's coming. That's exactly what's happening in your life right now. The bareness you're experiencing isn't death, it's preparation. It's the field being plowed, so new seeds can be planted in fertile ground. Most people panic during this phase because they've been taught that growth should feel good, that progress should be comfortable and easy. But the deepest, most lasting transformation often requires a period where you feel like nothing makes sense anymore. Here's something else that's critically important to understand about this transition phase. When you're standing in the space between timelines, between your old reality and your new one, you become incredibly sensitive to everything around you. Things that never bothered you before might suddenly feel intolerable. Small inconveniences might trigger disproportionate emotional responses. You might find yourself needing more alone time, craving silence and solitude in ways you never did before. This isn't you becoming difficult or antisocial. This is your nervous system recalibrating to hold a much higher frequency, and during that recalibration process, it's naturally more sensitive to lower vibrations. Think of it like adjusting to a new prescription in your glasses. At first, everything feels weird and your eyes get tired easily, but you're actually seeing more clearly than ever before. Your system just needs time to adjust to this new level of perception. The quantum field itself is neutral, it doesn't judge or evaluate you. It simply reflects back to you the frequency you're broadcasting most consistently. When you're in this transitional space, you're essentially broadcasting a mixed signal. Part of you is aligned with the new timeline, but part of you is still attached to the old one through habit, through fear, through familiar neural pathways. This creates static in your signal, and that static is what you experience as confusion, doubt, and uncertainty. The way to clear this static isn't to push harder or try to force clarity. It's to become still enough that you can sense which frequency feels most true, most aligned, most like home to you. And then you consciously choose to amplify that frequency through your thoughts, your actions, your responses to whatever life presents. Every single moment of your day becomes a choice point. When something triggers your old pattern, you have this brief window where you can either react from habit or respond from your elevated state. When you choose to respond as the elevated version of yourself, especially when the old stimulus is right there in front of you, practically begging you to react the old way, you interrupt the old loop. Every single time you choose a response that's aligned with your future self rather than your past self, you weaken the old neural circuit and reinforce the new one that supports who you're becoming. In quantum terms, this is the collapse of the previous probability wave. Until you make a conscious new decision in that moment, both versions of you exist in potential simultaneously. The version who reacts from habit and the version who responds with presence and awareness. The instant you act from your new energetic state instead of your old conditioning, you dissolve the outdated self and lock in the vibration of the version you're consciously stepping into. This is exactly why the moments right before a major leap can feel so emotionally charged and intense. They represent what's called the final superposition, that temporary overlap of two different identities trying to occupy the same space. From a spiritual perspective, it's less of a test or challenge and more of a rite of passage. You're standing at a portal holding the key to your future in your hand. And all the door really requires from you is that you respond to whatever shows up as the person you've been aligning with all along, not as the person you used to be. So, when scarcity thinking arises in your mind, meet it consciously with appreciation for what you already have. When anger flares up, respond with understanding instead of reacting with more anger. When doubt creeps in and tries to convince you nothing's working, hold steady in your knowing. These aren't just symbolic victories or nice ideas. They're vibrational confirmations broadcasting to the quantum field that you've already made the shift in your identity. The field isn't sitting there evaluating you or testing whether you're worthy. It's simply responding to who you are actually being in each moment. And in this moment, who you're being is absolutely everything. The trap that catches so many people right here is misinterpretation of what's happening. Many people assume these repeating challenges and old patterns showing up mean they're regressing or going backward. They think, why is the same issue still showing up in my life? I must be doing something wrong. I must be failing somehow. But the truth is completely opposite. The presence of these old patterns actually proves you're evolving forward. You've grown enough that they're being flushed to the surface so you can clear them once and for all. You can't clear what you haven't yet confronted directly. The very fact that you're witnessing these patterns with awareness now and asking yourself how to respond from alignment rather than just reacting unconsciously is your biggest indicator that you're almost through to the other side. What's one thing you truly want to manifest and why is it important to you? Drop it in the comments. I'm giving away 2 one-on-one free sessions to help you bring it to life. Be honest, be you. Let this be your declaration. Think about it like training in a flight simulator. Pilots practice handling turbulence in a safe environment so that when it hits for real at 30,000 feet, they remain calm, ready, and centered instead of panicking. These final tests before a quantum leap function like simulations, they're your opportunity to fully integrate your higher self under the exact kind of pressure that used to throw you completely off balance. And if you can meet these challenges with alignment and presence, you've already made the shift. You're not sitting around dreaming about your next reality anymore. You're already living it, already embodying it. So, if old challenges, familiar patterns, or past connections are showing up in your life right now, don't immediately assume you're off track or that something's gone wrong. See them as clear signs that you're brushing right up against the edge of your leap. This is the exact moment to embody your alignment without any hesitation whatsoever. Act as though the leap is already behind you, as though it's already happened, because energetically speaking, it absolutely has. Here's the truth about quantum leaps that almost no one really talks about in depth. They almost never arrive with fireworks, confetti, and obvious fanfare. Unlike the big cinematic reveals you see in movies with swelling orchestral music and dramatic transformation scenes, real quantum shifts in your actual life are subtle, sometimes even quiet. One ordinary day, you just realize that the anxiety that used to hold your chest tight and make it hard to breathe no longer lives there anymore. The constant worry that consumed your thoughts and kept you up at night has somehow faded into the background without you even noticing when it left. A conversation that used to set you off emotionally and ruin your whole day now barely registers on your awareness. The transformation doesn't make some grand entrance announcing itself. It simply becomes your new baseline, your new normal way of being. And because of how effortlessly it integrates into your everyday experience, your logical mind might actually question whether anything real happened at all. You might think, wait, was that it? Did I actually shift or am I imagining things? This is where understanding how quantum change actually operates in the real world becomes absolutely essential to maintaining your new state. In physics, when an electron moves to a higher energy orbit around an atom, it doesn't climb up gradually. There's no build-up, no slow progression. The transition happens instantaneously. One moment it's occupying one orbit, and the very next moment it's in a completely different orbit. No fanfare, no visible struggle or resistance. That's exactly how shifting between timelines works too. The leap isn't marked by external drama or obvious upheaval. It's marked by a shift in your inner resonance, your internal state. The old energetic pattern falls away so cleanly and completely that it becomes almost hard to recall why it once felt so normal and acceptable to live that way. From the perspective of your brain and nervous system, this is what neuroscientists call the integration phase. It's the specific point where old neural pathways that used to fire constantly go quiet and dormant, while brand new pathways begin to solidify and become your default. You no longer have to consciously try to act differently or remember to respond in new ways. You just naturally are different. That's why so many people don't even recognize their moment of arrival when it happens. The shift feels as natural as breathing, as simple as blinking. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be when you've truly integrated a new frequency. The version of you who lives in this upgraded timeline doesn't feel like you've achieved something monumental or won some prize. It just feels like your life, like this is how things are now. Spiritually speaking, this quiet arrival without fanfare is actually the ultimate confirmation that real change has occurred. It means your frequency has synced so completely and thoroughly with your desired reality that there's literally nothing left to manifest in the future. You're not waiting for it anymore. You're already there. You're living it in present time. This phase of integration brings with it a deep inner calm, a fundamental shift from striving and struggling to simply inhabiting your new reality. And here's something interesting. It's often in the moments where you finally stop scanning for proof and evidence that the most obvious signs begin to show up in your external world. Chance meetings that turn into opportunities, perfect timing that seems almost magical, synchronicities that guide you forward without any effort on your part. But you need to be aware of a specific temptation that arises during this phase. Many people fall into the trap of overchecking, over-manifesting, or doubting the entire process because they expect the leap to feel dramatic and earth-shattering. But that drama, That intensity belongs to your past frequency, the old way you used to operate. Your new state is fundamentally about ease and alignment, about things flowing naturally. Just because your leap felt subtle and quiet doesn't mean it was small or insignificant. Actually, the most enduring and lasting shifts are often the quietest ones because they happen at the deepest level of your identity. The change isn't just in what you do or how you act, it's in who you're being at your core. This is your moment to embody your transformation fully. Instead of wondering, did it happen yet? Ask yourself a different question. How can I live fully as this version of me right now? Every single decision you make from this point forward becomes an act of energetic alignment and declaration. You're no longer reacting to life from a place of lack or scarcity. You're responding from a place of clarity and abundance. And that's when the quantum field responds in kind, matching your frequency with seamless flow and surprising synchronicity. Not because you're forcing anything or trying to make it happen, but because you're finally attuned to the natural flow that was always there. So, if you've been sitting around waiting for your breakthrough to feel like fireworks going off, I want you to shift your attention right now. Start watching for the subtle signs instead, those peaceful mornings when you wake up feeling unexpectedly light for no particular reason. The conversations with people that glide with ease instead of feeling forced or awkward. The sudden insights and clarity about choices that once completely overwhelmed you. These are the real markers of arrival. You've already crossed the threshold into your new reality. Your role now is to keep showing up fully as if you're meant to be there, because you absolutely are. Send this to that one friend who really needs to hear this message today. You know exactly who I'm thinking of. Be the friend who shares breakthroughs, not just memes. Sharing this might just change someone's whole week, and that positive energy you send out will come back to amplify your own manifestations. And here's the deeper truth that I want you to really let sink in. If you're still with me at this point in the journey, still reading or watching, it's absolutely not a coincidence. You're receiving this message because on some level of your being, you've already aligned with a higher timeline. You've already started broadcasting the signal of the version of yourself who is living your deepest desires. This is no longer about striving to arrive somewhere in the future. You've already arrived. Now the focus shifts to grounding this new reality, embodying it fully in your physical experience, and growing into the fullness of it. In the language of quantum transformation, this leap you're experiencing right now is just your initiation into a new way of being. What truly shapes your future from this point forward isn't the initial burst of desire or the excitement of the shift. It's your capacity to stay coherent with that new frequency consistently over time, to make it your default state. And you've already shown yourself that you can do this. You've held your resonance long enough to lock in a brand new pattern. The next step is to let this frequency become your new normal, your baseline. That means choosing not to revert back to outdated habits and patterns just because things feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable or still. It means trusting the transformation fully, not constantly testing it or checking whether it's really real. You're not here to push life into place or force outcomes. You're here to match the energy of a timeline that already exists in the quantum field, one that's already holding everything you've asked for. And as you stay aligned with that frequency, you'll watch that reality reveal itself to you in ways that feel effortless and completely organic. That's the elegance of working consciously with the quantum field. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's infinitely intelligent and responsive. I'll meet you in the next video, where we'll explore exactly how to maintain this new frequency and prevent yourself from slipping back into old patterns. Until then, stay in resonance, stay aware, and trust completely in the silent strength of the shift you've already made.